Hello and welcome back to the Archer training series. In today's lesson, we will discuss how to set up and configure charging sequences. A charging sequence prescribes how and what order materials will charge a truck or mixer. You may also refer to it as a discharging sequence, since it only affects measured materials and their discharge link elements. Charging sequences apply only to automated loads and does not prevent you from manually discharging materials in an alternate order. Archer is pre-configured with a default charge sequence, but any number of charging sequences can be added and then used when setting up a load or creating a product. The charge sequence editor is located under the configuration tab. On the left navigation pane, you'll see the charge sequence folder down towards the middle of the pane. The add button becomes enabled when you click on the charging sequence in the configuration tree, and the copy and delete buttons enable when you click on a defined sequence. Clicking delete removes the selected charge sequence, and clicking copy button creates a new sequence that inherits the properties of the one that you've just copied. When you add or copy a new sequence, it is created with a name called charging sequence 1, which you can rename and configure using the charge sequence step editor. And of course, you can edit existing charge sequences at any time. To edit the sequence for a new existing charge sequence, click the corresponding button in the edit field. This action will open the charge sequence step editor described in the following. The charge sequence step editor shown here is opened with the edit button in a charging sequence definition. The step editor is where a sequence is actually defined and is divided into three panes. The leftmost pane shows the destination or final node element that will be charged. Above this pane is the name of the charging sequence. The top right pane contains the steps sorted in the starting order they will charge the destination node. How and what these steps actually start is further defined using the charge sequence command editor. For example, the first step shown here is the ag and will start before the steps cement and water. However, definitions and conditions may be defined for the ag step that will prevent it from charging right away. In the meantime, the other steps will initiate, and at some point satisfying a condition necessary for the ag step to continue. Above the step pane is a row of buttons that will allow you to add and delete steps and to move them with respect to each other. Placing the mouse cursor over a button will reveal a tooltip, providing a clue to the button's task when clicked. The plus icon adds a new step named Step 1 to the list, which can be changed. The negative icon removes the selected step from the list. The edit icon opens the charge sequence command editor, allowing you to define commands and conditions for the selected step. The down arrow moves a selected step down in the list, while an up arrow moves the selected step up in the list. Finally, the trash can icon allows you to drag a step onto the trash can icon to delete it. The third pane in the lower right is the preview pane, which displays the commands and conditions associated with a selected step. If the contents exceed the margin of the pane, you can drag the scroll bar or use the scroll wheel of your mouse to navigate through it. Preview is just that, and you must open the charge sequence command editor to make changes to the selected step. Below this pane are the OK and Cancel buttons, and clicking them will either save or discard your changes and close the step editor. After you have created and sorted a list of steps or want to edit existing steps, you need to define or redefine what each is and how it will interact with the others. To do this, select the step in the list and then click the Edit button to open the charging sequence command editor. Here is where you create an instruction set or command sequence for a step. Instructions includes command and conditions that determine when discharging nodes should start and stop. The command editor is divided into four regions. To the left is the instruction set for the step. To the right are the available commands, available conditions, and the edit region. Before exploring the functionality of the command editor, let us see how the water step is constructed. When the command editor is open, the step name will be shown in the corresponding field. For this example, the name is water, but you can click in the field and key in the appropriate title for the step you are editing. For a new step, the instruction set will have only the step name in its pane until commands and conditions are added. In this example, the first command, start, initiates the water discharge. The next command, wait, sets up a condition before proceeding to the third command, stop. The condition of wait is until, which stipulates that the following command, stop, will process only when the water discharge reaches 80%. As you can see in the figure, the water discharge will not start again until the conditions of the preceding wait command are satisfied. In this case, Archer will wait for all the materials to finish discharging before releasing the remaining water. Commands are processed from the top to bottom as they appear in the instruction set, and for the sake of argument, they process instantaneously unless a condition is provided to interrupt its flow. In other words, using the example above, placing commands only without conditions in the instruction set should not allow the water to stop discharging any time before it's emptied. Now that you have an idea of what the command editor is for, let's explore how to work with it. Commands denoted by the gear icon are inserted in the instructions by dragging one from the available commands onto an existing command or the step name denoted by the panel icon in the instruction set pane. Commands are placed underneath the element you drag onto and cannot be part of another command, as conditions are inserted in the instruction set in the same way, but are dragged from the available conditions denoted by the tree icon onto the established command. Conditions are placed underneath the element you drag it onto and cannot be part of another condition or the step name. If you misplace an element, you can reorganize the instruction set by dragging elements to different locations. If your instruction set grows too large for the window, you can navigate through it by dragging the scroll bar or using the scroll wheel of your mouse. If you find that you do not need a particular command or condition, you can select it from the instruction set and drag it to the trash can icon at the bottom of the pane. Along with the trash can icon is a series of buttons that you can use as an alternate to add, remove, and position commands and conditions. Their functions are described here. The plus icon inserts the commands selected in available commands underneath the commands selected in the instruction set. The minus icon removes the selected command in the instruction set from the set. The plus tree inserts the conditions selected in available conditions underneath the command or conditions selected in the instruction set. The minus tree removes the selected condition in the instruction set. Up arrow will move the selected condition up in the list, and of course the down arrow moves the selected condition down in the list. Finally, the trash icon allows you to drag a command or condition from the instruction set onto this icon to remove it. After a command or condition is inserted into or selected from an instruction set, the edit region in the command editor will populate with appropriate input fields. It is here that you finalize the instruction element by associating a discharge link, setting delays and percentages, and changing rates. Most of these fields are edited by clicking on them, usually opening a drop-down list on which you click a selection. Some fields, such as delays, provided up and down buttons to adjust values. However, rates require that you key in values that have a unit of measure that corresponds to the volume, quantity, and time, or the volume and time. In the following table, each command and condition is defined along with its editable attributes. Absolute rate is the command to discharge the specified link at an indicated rate. Proportional rate is a command to discharge the specified link at a rate proportional to another discharge. The rate is determined as a percentage of its peer. Relative rate is a command to discharge the specified link at a rate relative to another discharge. The rate is determined as a percentage of its peer. Start is a command to start the specified discharge, normally used without conditions. The stop command is a command to stop the specified discharge, normally used without conditions. The wait command is a command to interrupt the command sequence. The wait period is dependent on conditions. The conditions are as follows. Delays is a condition that delays processing of the next step in a command sequence until a specified time expires. The complete is a condition requiring the specified discharge to be complete before proceeding to the next step in the command sequence. Percentage of is a condition requiring the specified discharge to reach the indicated percent of the load before proceeding to the next step in the command sequence. Status device is a condition requiring the specified device to be active before proceeding to the next step in the command sequence. Finally, transferring is a condition requiring the specified discharge link to be transferring before proceeding to the next step in the command sequence. Now that we have an idea on how to use the command editor, let's create a new charge sequence. I'll create a new sequence by clicking on the Add button. From here, I'll open up the step editor by selecting the Edit button on the right side of the pane. Under the sequence pane, I'll select the Add button, which will create a new sequence. Here, I can edit the new item by selecting the Edit button or double-clicking on the new item. This will launch the command editor for the new sequence. We'll assume we want to set up an ag sequence so that the ag will wait until the cement is fully charged. We'll also assume that we want to wait until the water has reached 50% of its discharge before discharging the ag, and then we'll release the aggregate. So since we're dealing with aggregate charging, we'll change the description of the step to ag so it's more descriptive. Now I can add a wait command and then identify that the wait will be based on the ag discharge. So I'll choose this under the link ID field. Next, I'll select a condition based on the charge event and drag that condition option over to the command. And since I want to base this on when the cement is fully charged, I'll select the cement discharge condition under the link ID field. I also want to establish a wait condition on 50% of the water being discharged. So I'll add another condition using the percentage of selection. Here I can select the water and then enter in the percentage of the water I want to wait to discharge before the ag will go. Now that I've established a wait command, I'll need to program a start command for the aggregate discharge link. So I'll drag that out as well and change the link to aggregate. Finally, I want to set a default feed rate for the aggregate material at 250 pounds per second for this discharge. I can do that by selecting the absolute rate command and dragging it over to my editor. Now I'll enter in the appropriate pounds per second into the rate field. So now I'm done. To save my changes, I'll select the OK button, and all my commands will be saved and appear in the preview pane of the sequence editor. Now I can add a new sequence by clicking the Add button and start the process over again. Now let's assume we want to set a wait condition for the cement discharge until a percentage of the aggregate is discharged. In this example, I'll select the Add button in the sequence editor and then select the Edit icon to open the command editor for the new sequence. Once again, I'll change the name to something more descriptive, like cement. Now I can add the wait command for the cement and include a condition based on the percentage of the Ag1 discharge. Here, I'll enter in a value of 35%, which instructs the system to wait until the ag is 35% discharged before starting the cement. Next, I'll enter a start command for the cement and charge the link ID. Finally, like before, I'll add a flow rate for the discharge at 80 pounds per second for the cement discharge. When I click OK, I'll see both sequences for the ag and cement. Now I can enter in another step. Let's say we want to control the water as well. In this case, we'll assume we want the water to go into the truck immediately, but we want to cut it off after 80%, so we'll have enough tailwater to wash down the truck. Like before, we'll add a new sequence and go into edit our commands. However, instead of entering a wait command, we're going to begin with the start command, since we want the water to go in immediately. So I'll add the start command and specify the water for the link ID. Next, I'll add a wait command and apply a percentage of condition based on the water discharge reaching 80%. Now, since I want the water to stop and wait again, I'll issue a stop command for the water. After that, we'll want to wait for the rest of the admix to go into the load before we start the remainder of the tailwater. So I'll add a wait command and base the completion condition on each admix bottle. Finally, we'll enter a start command to start the final tailwater. So I'll add this command and then select the Water 1 link to the command. Now we're done. So I'll press OK to save my changes, which will take me back to the sequence editor page. Now, if I want to assign my newly added Charge Sequence 1 profile to a mix, I'll bring up the Mix Design Editor tab, and I can now select this newly added profile. I can also select this from the Load Edit page as well, if I want to apply it to loads on the fly. Okay, this concludes our discussion on how to set up charging sequences. Please stay tuned to this YouTube channel to discover other tips and tricks on how to operate your Jonel Archer batching system. Thank you very much and have a great day.